Good evening, everybody. How are you? I'll give you guys a few minutes to jump on. I always like to look to see what I can see because I can't always see what I need to see from this screen. So I hope everyone is having an amazing Tuesday. It's Healing Tuesday for us. Hey, Darren. How are you, love? How are you? Give people a little bit more time to jump on. Yeah, I'm tired. Homework, went to the personal trainer today. I realized today I love working out. I do. It's the way it makes me feel. Now, I don't like getting there and getting up but once I'm there, I love the feeling I have afterwards. I do. I really like. I was like, I love working out because my body just totally it loves it. Now it's tired. I mean, like tired. Not even, there ain't no R in that, Darren. Darren put tired. Yeah, there's not even an R in this tired. But I wanted to introduce myself to those who don't know. I am Dr. Tori J. I'm the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. I am a cognitive behavioral practitioner, recognizing that a lot of us who grew up fatherless have some things going on with our minds and what we believe, but we'll get into that a little bit tonight. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I'm silly. I'm tired, as I said. And I started this work because growing up without my father, I didn't recognize the pain at the time. But when I reunited with him, I recognized the challenges that I had in my life that weren't apparent. See, what happens to many of us is we grow up around other fatherless people and we ain't got no issues. We all the same. And so we don't realize that there's this common trauma. There's this shared trauma that we all have. And I just posted something on my Instagram about don't mistake shared trauma for compatibility. Boom. And so I talked a little bit about fatherlessness and how that is a shared trauma. And we tend to attract one another and then end up repeating the same cycles that we vowed that we would never do. So tonight we're going to talk about why we need to heal, right? Why we must heal our father wound, our fatherless trauma, and how it's playing out in our relationships. Well, I'm going to use this opportunity to share some information. I started Healing Tuesdays because my husband said on one of my lives that he didn't know he was fatherless until he married me. I was like, what? And then the I've Got Daddy Issues brand, Beyond Fatherless brand, was an offshoot of the Fatherless Generation Foundation because him not recognizing that he was fatherless before marrying me was a shocker to me. But as I've gone around the country after he said it, other people have said the same thing. I was one of my dear friends who was in Atlanta with us during this situation that I've had with my health. She said, me too, didn't know. Another young lady who came to I've Got Daddy Issues tour in Charlotte, was talking to her. She was on my heart, and I just called her a couple weeks ago, and she was like, yeah, I didn't know I was fatherless either until I met you. And it's really like, I'm going to get into that a little bit tonight. But a lot of people are in that position where they don't recognize it. They don't see it. And it comes, I believe it comes from the fact that some people are like, I know who my father is. He's just not around. There are other people who don't have a father and they've never met him, but they know they got here somehow, right? So there's a dad. Then some people have a dad who has, passed on. And there's nothing you can do about a father who's died. So what trauma can I really express that I have because my father's died? And then there are people who have a father who is in the home, but he's emotionally absent. I remember having one of my speakers who was on the I've Got Issues tour. She was in Greenville, Camille. And Camille said she had a hard time admitting that she had a father wound because she didn't want to offend her father. He's present, he's in her life, but she recognized that his emotional absence was a thing. It was really a thing for her. Oh, and I need to put something on here. I missed something. I realized I just missed something on my notes here. And so tonight I want to take the opportunity to tell you guys, because you are my tribe. For those of you, let me say this before I get here. Those of you who are listening and on here right now, there's only a few of you, but I know there will be more who come on and they'll watch it later. Share this. We're going to go deep into some relationship stuff. Share it. And those who are watching in the replay, please type replay in the comment section. I know I keep saying I'm going to share something. And I know this is the time I'm supposed to share it because you guys are my tribe. Varric and I are no longer together. It is a very painful experience for me right now. Yeah, that's kind of where I want to leave it. I don't want to go into too many details, but know that it has a lot to do with the fatherless stuff. A lot. And even in connecting the dots on here for him, he couldn't always make the leap. And that's okay. But just know it's hurtful. It's very difficult to go through, but I got to keep going on and doing what I do. I know there was an expectation from some crazy people that I was going to put something online that's just not my personality to do that. But I definitely wanted to tell my tribe that this is where it is. I'm not sure if he's on here or if he's ever going to come on here again. I've seen some things over the last couple of days. I think he was on the prayer. I don't know, but I'm just telling you, doesn't feel good. And we've talked about how there's a fight. When you grow up fatherless, there is a constant fight to stay married because the trauma is constantly raising its head. And because I'm talking about relationships tonight, I was like, I need to share this. This is the moment where I'm going to say this. And that's kind of where I'm going to leave it. Thank you, Annalise. I do appreciate that. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't. But this is where it is. And this is where I let out. Because I'm not going to, I told you guys this multiple times. I'm not coming on here pretending, performing, and faking the funk for you. I believed I chose the person God had for me. And I still believe that in my heart. But I also recognize the dysfunctional stuff that I'm just not going to participate in. And I'm not perfect, but I'm going to do the work. And I'm always going to fight to do the work. Not everybody's going to participate in their own healing. And we can't drag people along. You just can't do it. Eventually, they're going to get upset and they're not going to continue. So that's where things are. So let's get into this conversation. A lot of people the father wound goes, I'm going to say it this way. The father wound goes unrecognized and it wreaks havoc in many lives. It goes unrecognized. And then I see Stephanie says, then there are mothers that keep fathers away. Well, Stephanie, that's part of the father wound. I'll put that on the screen. The child is still wounded. The child doesn't know that the mother's keeping the father away. The child doesn't know the story. The child just knows that the father is absent. And that's what Tuesday night is about. Tuesday night is really, it's about the fatherless child, whether they are 14, 15 watching this, because it is PG. And unless they're an adult, whether they're an adult, they have no idea. They've been told a story and that's what they know. And so they don't know that the mother has kept the father away. They don't know that story unless someone speaks that story to them. They don't know. And so there's still trauma and pain associated with that. We'll get into some of the abuse and some of the things a little bit here in a moment. But I want to tell you that the father wound goes unrecognized. And as it goes unrecognized, it's going to constantly wreak havoc in your relationships and in your life on a regular basis. Now, as I am continually talking about this, the week before, when we're discussing why we must heal our father wound, I talked about just our lives in general. just how it's wreaking havoc. So go back to that one 2 weeks ago, where I'm just specifically talking about how it's impacting your day to day. And it is impacting your day to day, whether you know it or not. And going back and watching that one, you'll figure it out. And you look, this time that we spend on here, this is for you to engage. This is for you to type out your stuff, your healing journey, your obstacles, where you are. I know some stuff, but I don't know everything. And there are things that I will say that will resonate with people, but there are things that you will type in the comment section that will resonate with someone and change their life. So do not be afraid to post anything in that comment section. Put it in there so that you can get the healing that you need, but also maybe you will be the one that heals someone on here tonight. So let me have that conversation with you before I go on. The father wound actually determines how we view ourselves and how we see ourselves. That's a tough thing. We view ourselves as a mistake. We view ourselves as someone who's not worth loving and we're not lovable. We view ourselves as a person who's a failure. Maybe our dads didn't like us because we weren't a boy or a girl. I've heard kids ask me that. Do you think my dad's not here because I wasn't a boy and I'm a girl? Like, that's been a question. You question yourself. You're constantly questioning who you are and what you are. You find yourself in negative circumstances, negative pits. You know, I'm a biblical person, y'all, and you guys know I will take you to scripture, especially on Monday with prayers. And that's the prodigal son. Like many of us are wandering around, and I'm looking for something that I did not pull before getting started. But many of us as fatherless individuals are wandering around, walking away from stable and sound relationships, friendships, those things that can help benefit us, grow us, heal us, all of that. And we're walking away from it because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel normal. I don't want to do that. I'm not interested. And you don't realize that that's the very person that's been placed in your life to heal you. That's the very person that's been placed in your life. I can tell you I have had issues with relationships. Now, I'm not talking about male-female relationships at this point. I'm talking about female-female relationships. My best friend and I did not start out on the best foot. Tori was doing some real jacked up stuff and messing up things. And I had to correct. There was a correction that had to be made. And in making that correction, we've now been friends for 20 something years. Part of that correction was checking myself. What the hell are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why do you behave this way? We have to use the mirror to examine, number one, how we view ourselves. Some of y'all think y'all drawers don't even stink. Some of y'all think y'all perfect. Y'all got it all together. I don't think I'm perfect. I by no means think I have it all together. But what I do know is when I don't have it together, I'm going to come to you and tell you that. I'm going to come to you and apologize. When I messed up with my husband, I would probably beat him to saying, you know what? That was jacked up. I didn't do that right. You have to be willing to step out and say you don't have it together. But too many of us, we're prideful, we're haughty. We've been raised by our mothers that our stuff doesn't stink, especially you men. Y'all mamas raised y'all into thinking that y'all were princesses, little boys that, kind of act like girls and you process like girls, and women should be falling all at you. And it's a really weird dynamic when you're a grown woman wanting to be a woman. And I've seen this in women in relationships. And the guy is like, I'm a girl, like I want this stuff too. And there's nothing wrong. Ladies, you can love him, pour and shower on him. Like, don't get it twisted. You're not supposed to be the one who takes. That's not what this is about. You should be, fighting to show love and to express love to this person just as much as they're expressing it to you. But there is a place, men, where a woman wants to be protected and she wants to be loved, and she doesn't want to be the leader in the household. She just wants to kind of be a lady. And we miss out on that, especially when you guys have been raised in a way by a single mom that teaches you dysfunctional behavior, making you think that you should be treated that way. Mothers spoil their boys sometimes, and it's like, I can spoil you, but only so far. I can affirm you, but only so far. I'm going to do my best. I'm not great at affirming myself. So this was one of the areas in my marriage that I wasn't the best at. I would definitely compliment my husband, but it wasn't as much as he needed it. And I understand that. I don't do it enough for myself. So that's something that I'm currently going to work on, because that's an issue, right? If it's an issue, I need to work on that. But you guys have to realize that how you view yourself, whether it's a negative light or this arrogant light, you've got to check yourself. You've got to look in the mirror and deal with it. There's a balance to this thing. There is a balance to how you really are and who you really are. I'm going to get off of that one. The pain from neglect, abuse, addiction, and the absence of your father takes a toll on every relationship you have, every single one. I need you to know that you may not even pay tonight. After tonight, you're going to go, that's why that didn't go well. Oh man, that's why that didn't. It's taking a toll on your relationships. Are you selfish? Are you just, it's all about you? Are you in a position where you can't even see yourself? You can't even see the mistakes you make. You can't even see, you don't apologize for nothing. Are you arrogant? Are you masculine, girlfriend? Are you super masculine? Men, are you super effeminate and you process like a woman, but you show up like you're an alpha male? Where are you? Because it's going to take a toll. Are you a pretender? Do you show up one way? We call that the representative in some ways, but I think the representative is intentional. A lot of women, especially women, this is a conversation we have. Oh, he just showed up. That was his representative. As if we don't have a representative that shows up at dinner all made up. I have seen some of these makeup tutorials. Some of y'all do not look like yourselves when you take that makeup off. I know when I have makeup on, I look a little different, but I promise you, I don't look that different. Some of y'all don't have eyebrows or eyelashes. You ain't got no edges. And then you show up and you look like a totally different person. I'm just telling you. I know I'm being silly right now, but I'm serious. Y'all men know. Some of these women, you be like, what is this? Yeah, but y'all do not look like yourselves. And so you need to make sure you get it together, because y'all act like it's just a representative. But anyway, there's a difference between pretending and having a representative. I don't believe pretending is intentional. I grew up in a family, I feel like they were pretenders. I feel like they still pretend. And I don't pretend. I'm not in make-believe. I'm not an actress. Darren said low down dirty shame. It is, but it's true. We talk about y'all like a dog as if we're not showing up. Yeah, Spanx on. Y'all don't see the gut and the flabbiness. You seen them Darren, you seen those things they pull up? I saw one last night where two girls had it pulled up and then they pulled it down and it was all like, woo, I got a stomach. I'm working on it. But yeah, we're going to go on because I can get silly on here and I can just go. Just don't act like you're not representing when you show up. Pretending is different. I think pretending is a taught and learned behavior. It's how we're taught that way as children. When you walk into a room, you have to act a certain way. You can't act like you feel neglected at home. You can't act like you're being abused. An abused child doesn't show up looking abused when they're out in public. They look perfect, polished, and put together. They look well put together. There's a reason for that. You're pretending. It's a face. You're hiding. And if you have learned to do that since childhood, you've got to know that in your adulthood, it's just a part of your personality at this point. And you just think that's who you are. Some of you show up at work and you pretend at work and you go home and sit in the dark because you are angry, depressed, and mad and manic. Can we go to manic? Many of you are angry, depressed, and manic. Many. I got somebody from Russia. Okay. Okay, Periscope. Many of you, but you don't recognize it because at work, everybody is like, oh, she's so great. They're amazing. And then you come home and sit in the dark and nobody knows it. Yes, Stephanie. Come on. Stephanie said a false self. It's a pretender. And I can't blame you for pretending because you've had to your entire life. It has now become who you are, and you don't even know that it's not really a part of what you and who you are. And all of these personalities have now, like, you got multiple personalities, you bipolar, you all over the place, simply because there were things happening in your home and you had to split personalities. You had to do different things in different situations. It's different than getting on the phone and sounding, oh, you got one voice on the phone with professional people and you got another voice on the phone with your homeboys and your homegirls. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how you show up is a pretender. How you show up is performance. It's performance. You know all of the right things to do to get the right responses. Ladies and gentlemen, we both do it. But I hear women always saying, oh, he slick talked me. No, ladies, you have a thing called control and manipulation. And so that's how you slick talk. That's how you maneuver. I'm going to move on. Couples, we're talking about relationships, and I'm going to talk about romantic ones right here. Couples tend to retaliate against each other from wounds neither of them inflicted on each other, or neither came from each other. So you are constantly retaliating against each other from wounds that neither one of you created. Neither one of you participated in the actual trauma. Can you imagine that? And you think it's all about you. And boo, it has nothing to do with you. Can I sit in my space right now? Because I told you what was happening with Vark and I. This has nothing to do with me. It doesn't. And that's a piece right now that I have that it doesn't. We can act like it does, and we can point blame in certain places. And I can acknowledge that I am not perfect. But this, as it is, has nothing to do with me. This is much deeper than me. This was here before me. And many of you need to sit in that space. You need to sit in that space, not from the place where I am. Not from the place where I am. Maybe some of you do need to sit in that place. Like looking at your spouse or the one you're in relationship with and say, that don't have nothing to do with me. That has everything to do with you. But you also need to sit in the space and say, some of the stuff that I've done to this person and how I've reacted to this person has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with me and some of my stuff. And I'm going to have to make a phone call and I'm going to have to get some help. In a season of COVID, there are multiple virtual counseling, free counseling therapy available to you. Just Google it. Psychology Today has some. You just go on there and you go to Psychology Today and they can give you free virtual groups. And there's different criteria. There's different types: addiction, trauma, childhood trauma, relationship trauma, domestic violence. I've seen stuff I didn't even know what it meant. Go and look for what it is you need so that you can be the best you need to be in your relationships. Father wound is creating a painful deficiency in men and in women. Way too often, we only focus on the men concerning this. I want to point out 5 things concerning ladies and men that I want to deal with specifically in each category. And because we constantly are hitting y'all over the head, men, sometimes y'all need to be hit over the head. Var can tell y'all. There are times I get off the phone and I'm like, he's so stupid. Like, some of you just are constantly trying to do something else and it hinders your ability to be reunited and it frustrates me. And Vark would get to hear that. So ladies, I want to deal with the issues you have surrounding your fatherlessness and relationships and why you must heal it. Okay. Number 1, you're on an endless search for love. Endless. Never satisfied, never satiated. It's always a search. Grass is always greener. And you find yourself constantly repeating the cycle. Multiple men, multiple baby daddies, and you're trying to figure out how to get off the ride. You're going to have to get off the ride of searching for love. As you are on this endless search for love, you are meeting and attracting the very abandonment and rejection, or spirits of abandonment and rejection, or the energy, however y'all want to phrase that, of abandonment and rejection. You're experiencing the same trauma, you're attracting the same trauma you haven't healed. We always say we want, I want this kind of person, I want that kind of person. And so we hear the law of attraction, and you attract who you are. Baby girl, it's not as shocking you attracted the guy that you attracted, because it's who you are. It's who you are, at the core of who you are. Maybe you don't acknowledge that. Maybe you still living in this place that Stephanie talked about, this false self. So you're like, that's not who I am. Go back and look in the mirror. Who are you? Who are you really? Who are you really? What's her name? I love how she says, who are you, darling? Who are you? That's what you need to know. Like, that's the thing you need to ask yourself. Who are you? If this person is in my space, this isn't trickery. How did they get in my space? Own your space. We're constantly trying to make the other person own the space. I know how Vark ended up in my space. I know, and it's nothing negative. And I don't feel anything negative about it. I don't. I get a little angry here and there during the day, but I resolve it. Write in my journal, call my therapist. I've joined a few groups. I'm going to deal with it the right way. Some of you aren't dealing with it. Y'all just keep going on with life like it's not happening. And you still on this endless search for love. You're not going to find it until you get the healing. You're not going to find it. You're going to find forms of love, but you're still going to be on a search for love. And it's going to keep you looking and looking and looking. And while you're looking, you're having sex and having babies and can't explain where the daddy went. Having sex and having abortions. I met a young lady flying back to Miami after being in Atlanta last week. She had 8 abortions with her husband. I couldn't understand, but I let her talk to me. She was the waitress. And she just talked to me and talked to me and talked to me and talked to me. And I prayed for her before I left. Not about the abortions. That's, she's already dealing with whatever that is. She expressed that to me. But I definitely felt pain for her. And I attract fatherless people. They're going to tell me my daddy wasn't around. Or if I ask, they're going to admit it. I'm a healer. God uses me as a healer. He flows through me that way. So people are going to be attracted to me in that way. My best friend can tell you, I attract some characters. She always like, what's the cast of characters now? Because when you have a gift of healing, you're going to attract those who need to be healed. When you attract, when you are a deliverer, you're going to attract those who need to be delivered of some spirits. That's my spiritual gifting. So I need you to know I'm aware. I'm more guarded now because I used to let them people all in my space. All in my space. Darren said attractive to what is comfortable, not seeing the signs from either one of you. Yeah, look, what's comfortable and what's normal. We've normalized fatherlessness. We've normalized dysfunction. We've normalized this behavior, and we that's what it is. So searching for love, you can even be searching for love in your own marriage. I learned from that young lady. She loves her husband, like every bit of him, but she's still searching for love in her marriage. Ladies, number 2, your father wound creates a negative filter in how you see men and women. Now let's have this talk. I'm tired of these fatherless women who are, every man is a dog. I don't need a man. He is this and that. Well, you don't have all these babies because you don't need a man. You don't have one child because you don't need a man. You need a man. And even having children, I don't have children, but those of you who do, you cannot say you don't need a man in the midst of having children, because you needed the man to have the child. And now you need the man to actually help raise and develop and train this child. And you can't do it without the man. I know some of you think you can be husband or father and mother, and look, stop. That's personality stuff. No, You weren't designed that way. Do the best you can do. The father's not available. You got to do the best you can do. And you create villages. And then your village needs to have men in it, ladies. Stop having villages. And I've said this multiple times, and I'm going to keep saying it. Stop having these villages that have no men in them. That doesn't benefit you at all. That doesn't benefit your children at all. They grow up and become the very thing that I'm on here talking about. Well, they're successful and they went to college. What is the emotional state of their heart and in their the mind? You guys don't even know half the time. When you come on my post and say that, and I ask you that question, you don't even know. Career, success, college graduate, that's a wonderful thing. But it doesn't mean that you came out whole and unscathed from your fatherless trauma. As we filter these relationships, these negative filters we have when it comes to women, I know some people would say, oh, she just doesn't like single mothers. She's got an issue with her own mother. I do. I'm going to own it. But I don't just have an issue with my single mother. I have an issue with a lot of you single mothers because I've watched the trauma that you've inflicted on your children without being checked, completely unchecked. And it does piss me off completely. You are operating in spirits of bitterness, manipulation, and control. You've got your children enmeshed into these relationships with you that are perverted, to say the least. They are inappropriate. They're inordinate affection. They are self-serving and selfish, and it takes me someplace. It takes me someplace, and I don't like it. And so please know the yes, I do. I got that one, Darren. Yes. Darren just text the business line. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now. Yeah, I do have an issue with single moms because I know your truth. The rest of the world doesn't know your truth. You're a deity. You are on a pedestal. You're in a position. But I know your truth. And so because I know your truth, I got a whole issue with you. When I watch movies that paint this brush of perfection and deity of mothers and demonized fathers who I can see in the back who are fighting for their children. And yes, you guys have major issues, dads. Fathers, you got some issues. I get off the phone and I be going off. The last conversation Vark and I had about it, he was like, okay, are you for fathers or against them? And I'm like, just because I have an issue with how that dude processed and this other dude processed does not mean that I'm not for fathers. But if you do not listen to what's hindering you, it takes me someplace. So that's another conversation. But I have an issue with women who do these things. But that's not what this filter is about. This filter is simply about you view women negatively just because. And part of that is because you see competition. You see women as competition. Single mom, you see your daughter even as competition because of the dysfunction in your household. Even your daughter in your home is your competition. And don't let her get old. Don't let her grow up and be a grown woman. She's really your competition. I've experienced that. It's part of my issue. There's competition between a mother and a daughter? How? How does that work exactly? You're like 20, 30 years older than me. What are we competing for? There's competition. And I think it's love, and I think it's relationships, and I think it has a lot to do with that. I won't out that conversation, but I'm gonna tell you, it is a thing. And how we see women is from the same lens our mothers saw women. Yes, jealousy. The same lens our mothers saw women. And so this negative filter, this negative lens of men and women has been passed down to us. Girl, you don't need a man. You whole by yourself. Scripture doesn't back you up on that. But I'm not speaking on wholeness tonight. Scripture does not back you up on that. God took woman from the man. And so if we're both, yeah, I'm not even going, no, that's a Monday prayer. The filter came from your mother. The filter came because your mother didn't have great relationships with women. And the one she had, you saw her backbiting and talking bad about him and, gossiping about him or whatever else. And so that's the same relationship you've had with women and with men. They're no good. They're this, they're that. I had an amazing interview yesterday. I won't say with who. It will come out soon enough. It's a pretty big deal. And I'm excited about it. But that was the conversation the journalist and I had yesterday, like this really weird dynamic of competition and just how our filters and how we get into the space of what we see and what we believe. But it's our father wound that creates that. And I know people are like, but you're saying mother, but father wound. The father wound is an open wound that is available, just open, right? Imagine being cut. It's open. And so anything that passes by it impacts it and affects it. Your mother, your relationship with your mother is impacting your father wound on a regular basis. And those who have father wounds have mother wounds. I've checked. Number 3, father wounds cause women to become enraged at men. Darren said women hating on other women. I can't tell you, I didn't like female friends. I had a lot of male friends because that's all I saw. I just saw women hating on other women. And I was not interested in that journey. Men don't do that. If they do, they never did it around me. And if they do that, they probably process like a girl. Ain't nothing worse than a gossiping man. Like, get over there. Go somewhere with that. But yeah, the father wound causes women to become enraged at men. Ladies, that's you. You are angry with men just for being men. We can see it in the world we live in today. Women are just mad at men just for being men, and we are doing everything we could possibly do to minimize your masculinity. We call all men who are masculine toxic masculinity everywhere. There is a such thing as toxic masculinity. But in this day and age, just being masculine, if you're not a woman and you're masculine, it's a thing. I saw a whole video where a young lady who presents as masculine stated the reason that straight women were turning to her and her group is because of toxic masculinity. And they present masculine, yet soft and relatable and interested and engaging. That was a lot to take in. But a man posted and he was like, facts. He believed it to be true. And he was like, yes, that's toxic masculinity. But also, I'm not looking for an effeminate version of masculinity. And ladies, we have to be careful in trying to infeminize our men. And I'm not talking about skinny jeans. Like Varg hated, he was like, nah, I ain't wearing no skinny jeans. And I got it. I understood it. I would get the tapered ones, right? I understand that it has a look. But I'm talking about effeminate from a personality perspective, from a processing perspective. Stop trying to infeminize your masculine husband because you're afraid of toxic masculinity. Mothers, stop infeminizing your sons because you don't want them for the master to get them. See, what white people don't know is Black mothers make their sons soft because we're still dealing with slavery mentality. See, slavery mentality said, I've got to make my daughter strong. I've got to make sure she can survive. But I have to infeminize my son so the master doesn't deal with him, doesn't mess with him, doesn't beat him, doesn't kill him, so he can survive. And it's still playing out in our lives today. And it causes an enrage in women because our dads are missing. And then the men that we're meeting are effeminate. And then when we show up masculine, they have an issue and it's all messed up. It's the crazy, like, I don't know how people are dating and married and whatever. I don't even know how I'm supposed to navigate that. Like, that's insane to me. Number 4, the father wound causes us ladies to be terrified of abandonment. Terrified. Father wound causes us to be terrified of abandonment. Did you say too many fish in the sea, like Jay-Z? On to the next one. I got something for you. I promise you I do, Darren. I experienced this over the last few weeks. My inner circle, who knew what was going on, asked me how I was feeling. And my first word was terrified. Terrified. It's the abandonment. It's the rejection. It's the feeling of, why couldn't I stop it? Why couldn't I do something else? Why couldn't I fix it? Terrified. What is this going to look like on the other side of this? Terrified. I've never been terrified in my life. I'm terrified. And I'm saying it like that on purpose. I am. I'm terrified. That's a hard one to navigate for me. And so as I go through therapy, group sessions, hello, we all need some help, as one of my coaches has said. You've got to get the help you need in the situation you're in. And I get you, Darren. It wasn't, Darren said, I understand I having to get over the fear of being alone. I can say that that's not my fear. It's not the alone factor. It was, what does that look like? What is being said? How do I being a failure, terrified. Number 5, father wound causes women to fall in love with other father wounded men. Boom. Your father wound causes you to fall in love with other father wounded men. You didn't attract him by accident, girlfriend. Your father wound is attracting him. That's what's attracting him. And you're trying to figure out, how did I get here? Your father wound attracted him. Common trauma. Common trauma does not equate to compatibility. I posted that just a minute ago on Instagram, blowing folks' minds right now. They're like, whew, because it's a lot. We weren't ready for that. I remember growing up in this, well, not growing up, but I was a young adult in this church. And they used to always say, you got to find someone with a similar background as yours. And the first thought I had, and my best friend, because that's where I met her, we were like, don't nobody want nobody from the same background I got. Absolutely not. Then when I got married and we both were fatherless, I thought that was something in common. And I thought I was like, well, he gets it. But then I later learned he didn't get it, because he was like, I'm fatherless? Wait, am I fatherless? So there's this, that's telling me I got to study in 15 minutes. So there's this really weird place where, when you have a father wound, your father wound is causing you to attract father wounded men. So I'm going to need you to just do all of that, swallow, take a deep breath, and own how you're in this situation. You didn't heal. You went from one thing to the next and you didn't heal. Men, because I got 15 minutes and I'm going to do this quickly. Similar to the ladies, you search for love, not endlessly, but senselessly. You search for love, but you accept relief. I always say women are looking for love and men are looking for relief. I want to read something that was in my homework this week. Oh, well, I was a little behind. I'm catching up. Saturday is my last day in this craziness that I got myself into. Sidebar. I am in school. Politics will eventually be something I do. So I'm getting another degree. Don't judge. I felt led to do it. But my dumb self, I'm smart, but I'm dumb on this one. I was not thinking properly. I took 4 classes at an accelerated 8-week pace. And so I found myself behind dealing with surgery and other stuff in Atlanta and the divorce stuff and us not being together or whatever this situation. I don't know. I got behind. And so I think this is week 5 that I read 2 weeks ago. But I'm on week 8 right now. I'm literally a week and a half behind at this point. So I want to read this though, because this is talking about all this searching for love and all this stuff that we're doing. So they're talking about friends with benefits in this particular article or this section of the article. When I say we're not designed for this, I'm also speaking of males. A woman may be more likely to cry the next morning. It's not so easy to sleep with a man who won't call you back the next day or even call you back at all. But a man pays a price too. Y'all think y'all just getting away with this. He probably thinks he can instrumentalize his, or I'm going to even say compartmentalize his relationships with women, yet remain capable of romantic intimacy when the right woman comes along. Sorry, fellow, that's not how it works. I'm going to talk to you about this in a moment because it's my number 4. But while you're out here sleeping around, I've seen it enough now. You're paying a price for that. While you're out here looking for love and well, really looking for relief, you're paying a price for that relief you're finding with all the wrong women. I'll get to number 4 and I'm going to expound on that. Number 2, the father wound causes you to be a broken boy in a shell of a man, leading broken relationships. You're a broken boy in the shell of a man, leading broken relationships. You are not capable of being a whole man. You're a male, but you are still a boy on the inside. You are still struggling with childhood and boyish things. And you're leading this relationship that you're in into a pit of hell. It's broken, and it's because you're broken. That's number 2 for the men. Number 3, you were never shown how to love a woman as an equal. Not at all. Not as a co-partner, not as a co-laborer, not someone working alongside of you. You were never shown what that looks like. And so now you're expected to show up and know exactly what to do. You can't know what to do. Who showed you what to do? You saw it on TV? Yeah, we all saw Bill Cosby. We all saw Leave It to Beaver. We all saw Little House on the Prairie. We all saw Family Ties. In this day and age, we all are watching Empire. Well, I didn't, but you know. We're all watching reality TV. We're all watching these things. And when you grow up fatherless, you are doing your darndest to glean what relationships are supposed to look like from media, whether it's social media, media outlets. You're trying to figure it out. And in trying to figure it out, you're probably gleaning all the wrong things. And so when you're never shown how to love a woman as an equal from your parents being together in a household together, or let's just say your mother got remarried or your father got remarried or both, you were never able to see that like that. Many of you hate your step parent growing up. So you didn't get that view. You didn't get that look. And so how are you supposed to then do that? You treat the woman that you're with really badly and think that that's how you're supposed to treat her. She's not your equal because you don't see her that way. That's that toxic masculinity. I'm willing to bet that too many of those who grew up fatherless do carry the traits of toxic masculinity because they've gleaned what masculinity looks like from media, from fiction, rappers, like overly sexualized, misogynistic, the street uncle. You know how many people I've had that conversation with? Oh, my uncle was on the street. You know, he did. And that's what he was my father. And he taught you how to do what? I know someone who their father figure was actually a pimp. They're very successful in business, but they have a pimp oil all over them when they're talking. It's slick. They do very well in life. They do very well in their career. But they are slick, like you can, it's oily and it's a residue. I'm going to go to number 4 because we're getting down to the wire. Number 4, your father wound has you disconnected and detached. So when I just read that quote from this paper that I had to read this week about how you think that you can instrumentalize, that means you're playing people like, yeah, puppets, and you positioning this chick over here, and you got this chick over here on Friday night, you got this chick over here on Saturday night. Oh, this chick, she can't come out in public. Oh, but I go tap that and then you think you can compartmentalize that later. But then you can't. When it's time to actually be intimate and romantic with someone, the right woman when she comes along, this thing says, it doesn't even work like that. Sorry, fellas. That's not how it works. I learned that in the last few years. You don't get to run the streets out here, men and women, but especially men, sowing your wild oats. And then the perfect woman, the Virgin Mary, shows up and you marry her. And then you think all of a sudden you're going to be able to be attached and connected and intimate and all of that. You've never done it before. How can you do it now? You can't. I suggest to you that you get with a therapist. I'm going to give you my tips at the end. Number 5, your father wound has you emotionally unavailable. Not just in your relationships with ladies and romantic ones, but it has you emotionally unavailable in the sense in business where you're not authentic and genuine. And once again, you're a pretender. That's number 5 for you men. My suggestions tonight, the things that I'm going to talk to you about that you need to do in order to deal with all of this healing in these relationships. There's a reason relationships experts are everywhere and making tons of money, because relationships is the number one thing we want. Like Darren said, I having to get over the fear of being alone. Relationships experts are out here teaching you how not to be alone, how to find that perfect mate. There's a reason they're out here. And it's so funny that many who are crashing and burning right now, y'all funny. Y'all fell for the okie doke. I never got to do my talk on Derek Jackson. Maybe I should do that tomorrow on my personal page. Derek Jackson is a whole fatherless son. A whole one. He is the baby of 5 in a whole fatherless son issue. Daddy nowhere to be found. And y'all taking advice from this man. He's speaking from a mother's perspective, a single mom's perspective, and y'all was like eating it up, paying this man hundreds of thousands of dollars to tell y'all how to have a relationship that he can't even have himself. That's deep to me. Pretender. And y'all on this Kevin Samuels tip, he may be speaking some truth. One of my friends actually said, Tori, he sounds like you to me. That's probably true. I've listened to a few of them, but his approach sucks. His approach is traumatizing. His approach is disgusting. And now there are pictures surfacing and other things surfacing, painting him in a very negative light. And look, I have a past. When it all comes down, I'm sure somebody gonna throw some stuff on social media and I'm be like, been there, done that. That was part of my journey. Good night. However, when you are operating from a place and you are teaching people relationships from an unhealed place, you traumatize other people in the process. Kevin Samuels is not helping people in that sense. He's traumatizing people. He's traumatizing women. I'm sorry. His approach is traumatizing. He don't have to be that brash and that harsh to people. Maybe he thinks he does, but I don't think he does. So how you deal with these things and how you deal with getting over and healing your father wound, acknowledge You got to recognize and acknowledge that you got a father wound. Just because you know who your daddy is does not mean you don't have a father wound. Did he develop you? Was he there to love you and nurture you and develop you into the person that you are? And no parent is perfect. So we all gonna have a little issue with our parents. That's the one thing. The parents who are on here and your children got an issue with you, that's just that's part for the course. Like, that's what it is. You had an issue with your parents and your children gonna have an issue with you, and your children gonna have an issue with them. Because no one's perfect. But was your dad like what you needed? Like, you've got to be honest. He died, and no fault of your own or his own, but it hurt. And it left you without the father that you needed. Dad's in the home. He is emotionally disconnected from us. We cannot get him, like, he may come to a game or two, but it's not like I can love on him or I can get the emotional support that I need from him. I can't get, he's just a provider. He's present, but he's not engaging. I don't know how to acknowledge I got a father wound because I got a father. But you don't have the representation and the emotional support that you need. So you're going to have to acknowledge, Dad, you were here, but you were disconnected and you were emotionally unavailable to me. During one of our coaching sessions that I've been doing with the men, and Darren is on that particular group, we did deal with the emotional detached father and how that's impacted the men on the call's journey. And I can tell you, they really divulged some powerful information that I know helped heal them in the process. It brought a spotlight to it. It connected the dots to how they even got into the situations they're in. So you've got to acknowledge. Once you acknowledge and recognize it, you are going to have to forgive. Forgive your father, forgive your mother, and forgive yourself. We probably can forgive the first two, father and mother first, but forgiving ourselves as we have repeated patterns and habits. We now have children out of wedlock. We now have an alcoholic problem. We now have all of these different issues that we said we would never have, but we have them. Now what do? You got to forgive yourself. You repeated the pattern and you didn't know what you were dealing with. You didn't know you were broken. Dysfunction has been normalized. Fatherlessness has been normalized. There's no way possible for many of us to even know. No one told us this was traumatic. We went around life in school and okay, we're a little shy. Okay, we just keep going along. We have no idea until we become adults. We don't know. So you're going to have to walk through a place of forgiveness. And then my number 3 recommendation is get a therapist. Get a therapist. Stop thinking you can do this on your own. You cannot. This is deep-seated, deep-rooted trauma. You can't fix this on your own. And many of you are driving your spouses, your girlfriends, your homeboys. You driving them crazy. Go get a therapist. For real. I can't call my homegirls all the time over all what's going on. I don't want to. I didn't in the marriage, and I'm not going to now. So I got some bitter chicks in my life that I have to, they've been through some stuff. I'd be like, get a therapist. Tell them the same thing. You're going to have to get a therapist. It's time out talking to people who agree with you and who are yes men and women, or who you don't tell the whole truth to. See, a therapist can navigate and see when you like, yeah, nah, that ain't real. What's really going on? And they can see it before you even say it. But your homegirls and your homeboys are going to be like, oh, yeah, man, she's this and she's that. They're going to agree with you, even while you flat out lying to them. Even when you're not owning your stuff. If you got some woke friends, that's different. But most people who are in a position of not trying to deal with it, your friends are not woke. They just as sleep as you. And they're going to agree with you. They're going to pat you on the back and say, oh, yeah, man. Yeah. And stop talking to your family about them and these relationships and these friendships you have. Because your family, that's where you got the dysfunction from. So they're going to be like, oh, yeah, no, get a therapist. And I'm hot about it. Get a therapist and get a specific therapist, like deep-rooted trauma therapist, sex therapist, relationship therapist. Be specific. Don't just walk into anybody's office talking about you sign say you a therapist. Be specific. Do you care about showing up as who God intended you to show up as? That's important. It's important. I'm fighting for you guys as I'm fighting for my stuff and myself and my marriage and my life and all of that. I'm fighting for you to show up as your most authentic and genuine self. I am. But in order for you to do that, you're going to have to take these steps. Acknowledge and recognize. Forgive your mother, your father, and yourself. And find yourself a therapist who can be specific about the needs that you have and the healing that you need to obtain. I'm a coach. I'm not a therapist. I work very well side by side with a therapist. If you want to know more about that, you can go to beyondfatherless.com. Even the group that Darren is in, I am enjoying every bit of talking to the men and giving them insight into women. That is really where we go. We go some other places where we're discussing how they got here as men and dealing with some of the pain that they have. But Darren has a coach and a therapist. Yep. Darren's got both. So just putting it out there. And Darren started out because he won the package in December. He's just been going along now. So that is what I have for you tonight on Healing Tuesday. It is 10:03 and I know I'm 3 minutes past. I need to study. So let me get into some of the things that are going on. We put off Fatherless Awareness Month until July. We put it off until July because I had a lot going on and didn't want to bump into May being Mother's Day. That's kind of tacky. June being Father's Day. That's tacky too. So we're going to do this in July. And I'm telling you, July gives me a lot more time. We've taken photos for the billboards that are going to go up around the nation. We're going to put billboards in 7 different cities. I have 2 more photo shoots I'm going to do in Atlanta at the end of this month. And those photo shoots are catering to even redoing this banner. I want adults this time. Like I have the kids and the clothes too big, and I have several kids who are going to be my new faces of this. But I want some adults. If you are in Atlanta and you want to do a photo shoot with me, I want to put you in a suit that's too small. I want to put you in this is too big, but I want to put you in something too small because we're all messed up from this father thing. So that's what I'm looking to do. Darren said me. Darren, you going to wear a flooded suit? The buttons and all that popping off. Okay, I'll reach out. So yeah, we have to, that's something we're going to do because we're rebranding, putting everything out. Got a new board team, excited to have Keith Sagers on board. I'm excited to have Dr. Winfrey on board. I've got some attorneys on board from across the country. I won't say their names just yet because they still ain't signed their paperwork. I have Kashiri, who was my very first assistant. She's like, I want to be on the board. We have a young lady that we have approached and she said, yes, but we've got to do some assigning. I won't say her name either, but I want to, he said a schmedium. I want to make sure that I tell you how this came up. We are now in a place where the first peer group that we ever had, these individuals are freshmen. They're freshmen in college right now, which is crazy. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting old. Some of them might be a little older, but this young lady, I want to say she was 8 when I did her class. She is now a student at Georgia State. She graduated last year during COVID. And now she is going to be one of our ambassadors. So we're now looking at some of the children that we worked with years ago and having them be a part of the peer group process. As very similar to like how Miss America goes around and speaks and talks about, the plight and what they believe and what they feel. We're going to have this young lady talk about what she learned from Fatherless Generation, because she's talked to me a lot over the last few months about how we helped her. And that blows my mind. So we're going to introduce her in July as well. There's scavenger hunts that we're going to put out online that you can take and you can spend time with your children, even some co-parenting stuff, some team building. So just look out for that. There's some theatrical stuff that's going down. We're videotaping it so we can air it on social media and broadcast it, right? Those are things that we're doing, monologues that I wrote a long time ago with a friend of mine. So we've got some stuff for you. We are not only bringing awareness to fatherlessness, but we want to educate in a different kind of way, whether that's through, legal clinics, panel discussions, but I want to educate people on the pain that we're experiencing through these monologues. And that's what you're going to get to see through the monologues. All right. So it is 10:07. I am Dr. Tori J. I am the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I'm a coach. And I'm authentic and genuine. And just keep me in your prayers, because this is a tough journey I'm going through right now. And keep Varric in your prayers. We both need it. All right. So love you guys. And I will talk to you next week. I'm going to try to do Thursday. I'm supposed to have somebody on here Thursday. That's a whole nother conversation.